Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I'm always grateful. It was a pleasure participating yesterday in the Herbert Smith Free Hills, Oil and Gas in East Africa, an international legal perspective. And I was on the panel. Aline Thorani, who reached out from London, tweeted Ali Khan doing a fine job of managing expectations. And he said that because, when I walked into this room, I felt I was walking into the Shah of Shahs, Richard Kapuscinski, and expectations were so high. Just to give you two quotes from Kapuscinski: "Oil creates the illusion of a completely changed life. Life without work, life for free. Oil is a resource that anesthetizes thought, blurs vision, corrupts. Oil kindles extraordinary emotions and hopes, since oil is above all a great temptation. It is the temptation of ease, wealth, strength, fortune, power. It is a filthy, foul-smelling liquid that squirts obligingly up into the air and falls back to earth as a rustling shower of money." Shah of Shahs. I'm not as bearish on oil as Goldman Sachs are, but I am bearish, and I said this earlier in the week to Bloomberg. I said these big oil-based investments are not feasible. Current price structures preclude these big-ticket investments. Goldman Sachs sees 15 years of weak crude as $20 US oil looms. The world is shifting, they're saying, from an investment phase of a 30-year commodity cycle to an exploitation phase, with shale fields as an important source of output, he said. Then, after that, I went to hear Stephen Jennings speak at the Nairobi Museum, and I tweeted two tweets. I took this photograph of him because they were served with an injunction, and it was put up on the screen. I said the unstoppable Stephen Jenkins, which I think is a fair point. And then Stephen was saying that he still had a dream. But I took another photograph of the Martin Luther King quote, and Stephen. And finally, I'd like to thank John Feeks, the Australian High Commissioner to Kenya, for a seriously engaging dinner last night. John recently, on September the 15th, presented his credentials to Paul Kagame, and we put up that photograph. And then today I took in a very pleasant interlude at the Total Motor Show. So, bankers and investors, we do have some fun sometimes. And then we put up this photograph when I got in the Jaguar F-Type, rather fantastic. I tweeted, "Right, I'm off to Carpe the Diem." And then this photograph of the Jaguar from Lowdown that I took, and reminded me of this poem by Pablo Neruda: "The Jaguar touched the leaves with its phosphorescent absence." It was the twilight of the iguana, from the rainbow-arched battlements, his tongue like a dart plunged into the greenness. The monastic ant swarm walked through the jungle with melodious feet. The guanaco, thin as oxygen in the wide grey heights, moved, wearing boots of gold, while the llama opened his guileless eyes in the transparency of a world filled with dew. The monkeys braided a thread endlessly erotic along the shores of the dawn, demolishing walls of pollen and scaring off the violet flight of the butterflies of Musa. It was the night of the alligators, the night pure and pullulating, with snouts emerging from the slime, and out of the sleepy marshes an opaque noise of armor returned to the earth it came from. The jaguar touched the leaves with his phosphorescent absence. The puma runs on the branches like a devouring fire, which inside him burned the jungle's alcoholic eyes. The badgers scratch the feet of the river, sniff out the nest, whose throbbing delight is attack with red teeth. And in the depths of the all-powerful water, like the circle of the earth, lies the giant anaconda, covered with ritual mud, devouring and religious. Powerful poet, isn't he? And the Jaguar is powerful as well. The Jaguar XE was unveiled by the Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich this morning. I'll put up that photograph, and it's always good to catch up with Henry. He's highly articulate, and I must say I do enjoy his company. And I'll put up another photograph. Macro thoughts. Eric Scott Huntsader, futures contracts that reacted the most to the FOMC at 2 p.m. Always great visuals. Home thoughts, and I'm going to come to the big issue, which is of course the failure of the US to hike rates. But my home thoughts return to my hometown of Mombasa and Fort Jesus, a photograph I took on the 26th last year. Nishat and Aisha are headed to London for a week, and I will be in charge of my daughters Layla and Hannah. That's a lot of responsibility. Peggy Lee Carr-Phyllis, wow, station CDR Kelly, oh blue sunrise, good morning from the space station. Political reflections, but the fact is, Putin is not going to allow Assad to be removed by force. It's that simple. I think post-Muammar, Putin has understood that if he does not put up, he will be shut up. So he's putting up. Put up a photograph of Vladimir and Bashar, and also a link to a story I wrote in 2011, Gaddafi's body in a freezer, what's the message? Don't F-U-C-K with us, because you will end up dead and a trophy souvenir in a fridge. That same person is probably repeating Muammar's comment, I tell the coward crusaders, I live in a place where they can't get me. I live in the hearts of millions, and asking, really, are you, or are you now very dead and in a meat locker? I think Putin was trying to fend off that outcome for Bashar. Today in history, 1st of September 1969, Muammar Gaddafi leads a bloodless coup d'etat, overthrowing King Idris. Okay, the big news was the Fed held rates, and the Reuters is asking, does that mean zero forever? It's a fair question. 2-year yield drops most since QE announced in 2009. That's Holger's chart. Falls to 0.7% versus a 4-year high of 0.811% on Wednesday. Fear index VIX drops by 10% below 20 after the Fed left rates unchanged. Traders in the federal funds futures market marked down the chances of a December rate rise to below 50% following the news of the decision. When they didn't go then, I think there was a strong sense that they would go in December. Now people are even having doubts about whether they will even go this year. The economy created 2.92 million jobs for the year ended in August, pushing the jobless rate down to 5.1%. Labour market is percolating. Consumer spending climbed 3.2% in the 12 months through July, among the best year-over-year readings of the current expansion. It's going to be very hard to change market psychology. Traders feel the odds favour additional delay on Yellen's part. This fellow says, my forecast is December, but I would not stake my life on it. Currency markets, the euro is lost trading at 114.45. Japanese yen has surged to 119.23. Swissy, I haven't been able to check. The pound is up at 156.26. The Aussie is at 0.7248. India rupee 66. South Korea 1165. So basically, we've seen a big drawdown in the dollar, a big bounce in the commodity currencies as well. Let me put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index. We're going to pull back some more here. Euro dollar, let me put up a 3-month chart of that. I think Draghi's going to start talking soon if it gets above 150. Gold jumps, but I think 1150 will cap any rally, in my opinion. Let me put up a 5-day chart as well. Crude oil trading around $47.19. Blue diamond valued at record $35 million for sale at Sotheby's. Sotheby's plans to auction a blue diamond that it estimates may be worth 34 million Swiss francs, which would break the record for a stone of that hue. The 12.03 carat diamond, which has the highest possible color grade of fancy vivid blue, will be put on the block at November 11th jewelry auction in Geneva. It looks very beautiful. Let's go to Africa. Leaders of a coup in Burkina Faso have named Gilbert Diendera, a general in the elite presidential guard, to head a transitional council. Al Jazeera News tweeted yesterday, "We don't know if the transitional president and prime minister are dead or alive." Quartz Africa makes the point, Burkina Faso, the hope of an African spring, and I think that piece about, which I wrote about the message from Ouagadougou was because I thought, this was the start of an African spring, is in the middle of a military coup, which is always the risk in Africa. Africa Confidential, the Grace plot thickens. They're saying President Robert Mugabe has assembled a cabal to ensure that his wife Grace succeeds him as head of state. Senior government ruling party sources linked to the Vice President Emerson Mnangagwa have told Africa Confidential. Interesting article in Bloomberg about those African countries most exposed to China's slump. Oil accounts for the bulk of Angola's and Congo's exports. Iron ore for Mauritania and South Africa as well, but saying South Africa is more diversified than other countries. I wrote about this on the 31st of August when I said China's volatility is causing influenza across Africa. South African all shares had a little bit of a rally lately. It's now up 3.60% this year. Dollar rand. Let me put up a 6-month chart for you. Egyptians EGX 30 is minus 18.58% year to date. Don't panic, said the Nigerian central bank head. In an interview with Reuters, Emefiele said he was ready to inject liquidity if needed into the interbank market, which dried up this weekend following a directive to government departments to move their accounts into a Treasury single account in the central bank. Amid confusion over implementation of the policy, overnight interbank lending rates spiked to 200% this week. But Emefiele denied the policy had provoked a liquidity crisis. January 21st, I wrote that Emefiele's finger in the dike strategy is about to be overwhelmed by a tsunami. Just because it hasn't been overwhelmed yet doesn't mean that it is predictable and predicted that it will be overwhelmed. Nigerian all shares down 12.25% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index down 8.84% this year. The Ugandan shilling weakens as bank cover positions. This was yesterday, but we should get a small bounce. The Ugandan shilling has lost 24% against the dollar this year. I wrote about this in my piece on the 8th of June when I spoke of sub-Saharan African currency bloodbath. Angola's central bank tightened currency liquidity as well after the currency fell a further 6% this week. That is down nearly 30% against the dollar this year. And again, that article, Sub-Saharan African Currency Bloodbath, refers South Sudan's government apparently allegedly carried out a helicopter gunship attack on rebel positions days after committing to a peace deal. More than 100 people were killed in South Sudan when an oil truck exploded. The crowd tried to gather fuel from the vehicle after it veered off the road. El Nino domestic yields force Kenya to look beyond the bond market, with domestic borrowing costing at 3-year highs and the shilling slump making foreign debt risky. Kenya may be forced to look beyond the bond market to plug a budget gap that's widening as inclement weather curbs flour exports. The East African nation will consider syndicated loans or bilateral lending in foreign currencies as it may not be able to raise the required amount in the domestic market. This is Henry Rotich. It may also draw on $600 million of standby credit from the IMF. Government is way behind the curve on domestic borrowing and they need the money to fund the budget. This is Faith Atiti. The IMF estimates that government debt in Kenya reached 49% of GDP in 2014, up from 41% in 2009. I said government has to borrow. It's a very difficult hand to play. Higher local interest rates coupled with foreign currency impairment makes our hard currency borrowing more expensive. There is apparently a major security operation at the Mombasa port. Workers at the Kenya Ports Authority were last night taken by surprise after the GSU, Kenya Defence Forces soldiers, and regular police sealed off the facility and mounted a major operation. We don't know what they were looking for, we're just told to keep off. Even the managing director, Kichiri Dua, himself was locked out when he went to try and find out what was happening, said the source. Let me put up a photograph of the sunset in Mombasa. Another one of Mombasa Island seen from English Point Marina. The shilling is better near the 105 level. And do you remember what I was saying? I was sticking my neck out, saying that I thought the shilling might well base out. Nairobi all share down 8.96% year to date, down 0.25% yesterday. NSE 20 down 16.9% year to date. Kenya Airways' chairman Evanson Mwaniki, and I'll put up a photograph of him with the managing director, Bubi Gunze, is set to step down after serving his full term. Big events, obviously the Fed not moving is one of them, and I am grateful that you stopped by, and I wish you a super weekend.